Right.
And that, that's just it. It's just communicating your value, which is something we're going to be speaking to Anna about. And actually, let's go ahead and bring Anna on a little bit early because I love her to pieces and I want to talk to her as much as possible. So let's bring on Miss Anna Morgan. She is a terrific lady. She's recently actually formed her own company. So we're very excited about that. And she's got some terrific insight into the recruiting realm. So let's hear a little bit about you first, Anna. Tell us about you.
Yes, Catherine. Thank you so much for having me on the show. I adore you as well. So I coach job seekers and career changers on how to build a personal brand, network effectively, and find great opportunities. So I founded Career BFF July of last year and have gone full-time starting in May. And I've had the privilege and honor to guide many job seekers in this market, and super excited to talk about some of the basic things with negotiation, especially from the seat having been a recruiter for as long as I have.
Right. Exactly. And I think that's what's really great is that you have chosen to work on the candidate side, which is so very needed. But you've been on that other side of the desk as well. Mm-hmm. So let's talk about first, when your clients come to you, are they often worried about negotiating pay?
Well, I think it's pretty much anyone, whether you're a more seasoned candidate or entry level. It isn't a topic that most people are timid around and they get nervous about it. And so, it's important to be confident and speak with candor. And, as a recruiter, I shifted my questioning to job seekers to really reframe this. And I want to invite the recruiters out there to do the same, is that the hiring managers are given a budget and a pay band, right? So they know when they contact the recruiter, say, I have this position, this is why it's open, this is my perception of quality, here's the range. So your recruiter should really know what the range for the position is. And I'm sure you're going to talk about this later, but there's a lot of states where people cannot ask what your past salary was in your past position. So now we're reframing it to be like, what are your salary goals? And it's still the same question essentially. So I always recommend that, you do your market research, you calculate your value, you add in your skills, experience, education, certifications when you're starting to have those conversations to really talk about how you can solve the problem of why the position is open. And then most importantly, give a range or just first ask, what is the position budgeted to pay? And then just have that open-ended question and then be quiet. Let the silence go.
That's the best advice that I hear in negotiations is be quiet, right? Yes. Listen, ask the simple question, which in this case is the band. And I was going to ask you, do you normally go in and ask what the band is? What is the range? Do you do that up front, or is this something you do early on or later?
So in my experience working with corporate hiring managers, each quarter, each year, they have a budget for talent. And so they have usually 3 pay bands, low, a middle, and a high. And so, obviously when we do an intake meeting, we talk about the other intangibles. Could we do a sign-on bonus? What is the percentage of bonus as well? And then, talking about the whole benefit package, but the recruiter knows up front what the pay band is. So I would typically say to candidates, okay, for this inventory analyst position, it's paying 60 to 75 with a 6.5% bonus. Is that in your range? And then that gives the candidate an opportunity to go, okay, and they can calculate, well, I've been looking for a job for 3 months. Is it remote? Then they can ask other open-ended questions to talk about other perks. And usually when recruiters ask that questions, the candidates haven't had any exposure to the benefit package yet. So it's really not a fair question.
It's true. That's so true. And one thing that I encourage every candidate that I speak with to do is to, when you give your salary range, specify total compensation first. Right. This is what I need my total compensation to be. And this is what I need my base to be. And how we make up the difference, we can discuss that.
Saying you're flexible. Go ahead, Justin.
So how do I calculate my total compensation if I'm not attuned to the world that you two come from. I'm not. I mean, I do negotiate now, but I'm
Right.
later in my career.
Mhm.
But what about those early on in their career? How do I know what that total compensation is? Where do I find that information? Do I ask them or?
Oh no! Don't let
Right.
somebody else determine your worth. No.
Right. So how does that work?
I would say that you start by research. Look up the type of position that you're pursuing in your area. So Google, let's say you're an accountant. You Google accountants and DFW. Let's say you're from Dallas, and you look up the average salary. Look on several different sites to make sure you really get a good feel.
Like
So then you kind of
yes,
Glassdoor, okay. Indeed. But if you just Google it, this stuff will pop up. There's the site called salary.com, but if you just Google it, this kind of stuff will pop up.
Okay.
And then you kind of take that, and then you look at how much of the qualifications you actually meet. So if you're looking at a job and you meet 50% of the qualifications, you probably need to come out on the lower to mid end of their budget. Okay. However, if you meet all the qualifications and let's say, and then some, now you're looking at top end of the range, and they should be willing to pay for that. And then like Anna said, take into consideration remote. So if you want to make 60,000 and you've been driving all over DFW, if a position pays 55, that 5K will be made up by the fact that you're not having to drive all over Creation anymore and put that wear and tear on your car. So
there's also pay scale also has data for that as well. But I also recommend reaching out to agency recruiters that work in your niche and talk to them. If Catherine specialized in accountants, I would say, hey, what are you seeing in the market? Because and that's a really good way to get real good, like real-time information about salary expectations, because recruiters are making those offers to the candidates.
Yes, that's very, very true. And also look on the other thing you can do is get on a site like Indeed or Monster and look for positions to which you're a very good match and go ahead and say, okay, so this is what they're paying. This is what they're paying here. And that will also give you a really good kind of perspective on that.
How does that work for someone who's going from, let's say, a little bit higher up the ladder here to director to someone who wants to go into the VP world? How do you do that? That's because those negotiations change when you hit executive level, right? All that changes. There's very much the salary range is very different, obviously, but the compensation is vastly different.
Yeah,
how do you manage that?
At that point, you're talking stock options and equity, vacation. I anticipate that we're also going to see a lot more negotiation around work-life balance and flexibility and remote work.
Yes.
I anticipate that we're going to see that just as much as vacation that I've seen, along with sign-on bonuses. I think at that level, Justin, it's a conversation of basically saying, I want to be compensated fairly for my years of experience. And I'd be happy to discuss those numbers in more detail as I get further through the process. Because again, it's very premature to say, I want to make $200K plus 50% bonus when you haven't met the key decision makers or the board executive members, those types of things. And you could just lean back into, based on my experience and the research in this location, I expect this type of position would pay, from Y to X, and I would expect to be compensated fairly in that same place. They always say like the first person to get out a number loses. And, again, it really depends on the level of position, for more positions, say they're looking at taking an hourly role, that's when I would encourage candidates. And we have a wide audience here, so I want to speak to both of those that, again, you're just asking, what is the hourly rate for the position? And then you can say yes or no, or is there another position available?
Right, absolutely. And Greta just posted a comment about the fact that when you go remote, yes, things are less expensive for you, but that can be, not always, more expensive for the employer because they have to send everything to your home to set up and all that kind of thing. Now, typically, however, Greta, because I've done this myself, I've taken offices remote, and I don't know if you have as well, Justin, but you have. I figured you had, but I didn't. One thing that people don't realize is that office space costs a lot of money. So simply, they're using the same equipment either way. So if they send that to your home, they were going to have that anyway. Where they save is not having to pay for that square footage in an office. That's where the employer intends to actually save money. But you do need to consider all of these things, including benefits and the true cost of benefits. And most people don't know the true cost of benefits. Right. It's not what you're paying; it's what the employer is also paying. So the full gamut.
And it's hard for candidates to answer that question because like we used to provide the benefit sheet that showed the candidate what their cost was and then what the employer was paying. So they could actually calculate a little bit better of a value when they're looking at the entire compensation package.
Yes. And also I want to encourage people when you're doing these things, don't focus so much on just having a number at the top of your head. Listen to them first and never answer the compensation. At least this is my advice. Never answer the compensation question before you've gotten through at least one entire interview. Okay. Because you don't know what that job's going to cost. You should have one number if it's going to be 40 hours a week and an entirely different number if you're looking at 50 to 60 hours a week, because that's a lot more of your time.
As your career BFF, I endorse that message.
There you go. I love it. And what do you think about opening up with a joke? If they ask that question, I just did a post about this yesterday. I think you saw it. Yeah, where they said, it actually yields a higher salary offer by about 8% if you start off by saying something like, well, I'd take $1 million, but let's come up with something fair, and you start with a joke and then end with something reasonable.
Absolutely. I love that. So, and I was going to mention this before. I think one of the critical components to being able to talk about money confidently and with candor is the rapport building elements that go into those conversations. So that's why it's so powerful that candidates do their research and have some open-ended and personal questions for that recruiter. So look at their content, look at their profile, ask them how they're doing, how things have been affected since COVID in their company, how they're dealing with digital learning, like so many of us have kids in school right now on the computer. So that when you get to that point, then that joke lands even better. You have that and that credibility where you're BFFs, right? Like you're helping them fill that role. You are highlighting, like always be selling throughout the whole process. What are your skills and experience, certifications, education, all those things that make you in that 5 top % of the talent that is going to make you irresistible. So when you get to that point of negotiation, it's a win-win. So don't be afraid. I think a lot of like later generations, later Xers, early boomers struggle with those conversational type of interviews, like that first phone screen, but try it because it will make the whole process once you get to the end and offer a lot smoother.
Absolutely. 100%. And I love that you're really focusing on building up that relationship because that's everything, guys. It ties into the negotiation, it ties into you getting the offer, period. When people like you, they will hire you. And you want to tie everything into how you can help them. So yes, you have all of these skills, but how does that translate to helping them? Don't focus your whole interview on what you did. Focus what you're going to do. That's how you get hired. And that's how you get the big money in negotiations. I have my COO, Joel Knapp, he's been on the show before. I've watched him a dozen times. And what he does in interviews, he's not the best interview, honestly. He's terrific at working on this side of the desk, but he's not the best on the other side. But what he does that's really successful is he tells people his plan for success in the role. That's what he's done historically, and it works phenomenal. And he always gets the top of the pay grade. In fact, he's had people bust their budget for him. So it works very highly effectively. What is your take on that, Justin?
There's a couple things. One, I think we forget that we're talking to a human on the other side of the desk. We're looking at someone that's a recruiter or HR or even a hiring manager and don't realize that they're actually human. And I like the idea that you open with a joke or you open with something that's personal and light. Not heavy personal. Please don't do that.
Oh yeah, don't do that.
Don't go. I heard your dog died. Must be.
Don't talk about your personal finances.
Right.
Yeah, that's not good.
No, that's not good at all. And I think when we look at negotiations like this as being human conversations, you get a lot further. I like the idea that Joel, what he does. The second point was that what he does. Every time I've gone to an interview, I go and I tell them how I'm going to solve their problem.
Yes.
What is their problem they're trying to solve? I'm not there because I'm a great candidate for all my skills, my certifications, whatever that means. I'm going in there. I'm going to tell them how I'm going to solve a problem. So you have this problem. I recognize it. I've done my research into your company. I believe it can be solved X, Y, and Z, and this is how I plan on instituting that. Immediately, you're on their side because that's what they're trying to solve, right? They're trying to find someone to help them, not come in with, letters and certifications. And, you didn't go through the whole list, but they're actually looking for
make the conversation easy. Yeah.
Right.
Absolutely. Yeah. It's been really interesting to me over the years. Because I do I still stay on the phone. I run the company, but I refuse to get off the phone altogether. Right. I need to have that connection. And so when I talk to my candidates, one of the first things that happens when I ask about money is they say, well, what's the pay range? There's a couple of problems with that. Don't ever answer a question with a question. That shows avoidance and discomfort. Now, what you can do is have an answer like that joke statement and then ask a question right behind it. So you could do the whole, well, I'd take $3 million, but but does that fit your budget? You could do something like that, and that will still prompt the same answer of what is the budget. But the other problem is I post the salary range in all of my jobs. So what you've also just told me is you didn't pay attention. And you didn't and I understand that you're not going to remember every single job posting to which you apply. Okay, folks, I'm not saying that that's what people should expect. But when you're having a phone interview, you need to go back and you need to reread it and be familiar so that you can sound intelligent during the call or in-person interview.
There's a tech leader or former tech leader in Silicon Valley by the name of John Chambers. He ran Cisco Systems for a number of years. His thing, and every meeting that he went to, he put together a binder on that person. So where do they fit in the company? What's the company do? So every time he went in, he was extremely prepared to talk to that person. I find this being somewhat similar. I do somewhat similar. I don't do a binder. I mean, I'm not that organized. I wish I were, but I do have a set of things that I've jotted down in a notebook saying, okay, well, here's the pay range. Here's what this person is. I go look at their LinkedIn profiles, find out where they were, what they were doing. It's borderline stalkerish, but I want to know. I know we shouldn't use that word. Okay, so it's borderline research assistant, like.
There you go.
Whatever that is. Okay. But I want to know everybody that I'm going to talk to in that company. So it starts with me even looking at the recruiter. Where's the recruiter before this company? And how long have they been at this company? Because if I go in there and the person's been there for 2 weeks, they're not going to know the questions I'm probably going to answer. They're going to have to go to someone else to get those answers. Right.
Just and even on the agency recruiter side, I tell people to ask, how long have you worked with the company? How many people do you work with in the company? How many placements have you had in that company? Because that tells you how well they really understand what's going on. If they tell you, well, I've been working with them for 4 years and I filled 2 positions and it's a big company, this may not be your best contact. But you should always be doing your research and getting to know them so you can become their career BFF, right, Anna?
Well, it ties right back into the rapport building element. I mean, job seekers, recruiters, hiring managers, we're all, borderline, professional researchers, I'll say, to find people. But the other key thing that I wanted to mention in the negotiation piece is our choice of language. So avoid saying things like, I think, if you could, I like, just be really firm. My this is this range, or this is how I want to learn more before I fully answer that question. Yes.
Be confident, folks. Be confident in what you can do. Nothing will get you on the lower end of a pay scale quicker than hemming and hawing or being timid. So even if you feel that way, knit it and grit it and just fake it till you make it and get it on out there.
Don't be afraid to walk away. And don't be prepared for a no. I mean, most recruiters and hiring managers expect some sort of negotiation. So we need to that offer with everything. So we're fast forwarding through from initial conversation, take time, talk to your mentors, reach out to some recruiters, do some additional informational interviews with people at the company that may have more insights into pay equality. And for all the women out there, ladies, keep negotiating, ask for more. I mean, the statistics right now is that, women make 81 cents per dollar to men, and women of color make 75% to that dollar. So don't be afraid to know your worth and ask for that worth. And every position
100%
as well.
And ladies, I know it's hard because when you come across strong, you're going to get told you're too aggressive, you're too mean. Forget all of that. I've been told that my entire career, that I come across too assertive and too aggressive and too loud. I'm very loud. I'm a very, very loud person. And I've been told all of these things. And when I tried to listen to him for a bit, and it wasn't effective to me. So I said, you know what? Forget that. I'm just going to be me. And so I just put it out there. And that's how I found all of my success, is just being that person. And if you are quieter, if you are more timid, that's fine. But when it comes to this one circumstance, ladies, get that strength up, hold your chest high and say, hey, this is what I'm worth. And this is what you're going to pay to get me.
Yeah. And for the people that are more introverted, I mean, they can take time and craft a well-written email response to ask the recruiter some additional open-ended questions, and then make a business case for what their counter offer is. Then that way you have a chance to have a coach or mentor or another recruiter look at that language and see if you're missing anything, or if there's perhaps other things that you could add into the negotiation conversation.
Right. And I have one quick statement, and then we have a great question. So, but on that note, guys, when you get to the point of offer and you have told whomever is handling this for you, usually an HR person, what it is that you need, don't change your mind after the fact. Okay. You've already told them. If they give you an offer with what you asked for, don't come back and try to counter. Okay, that's going to lose you an offer, and it's going to sour the relationship real fast. Don't do that.
So I just noticed Ferrari had a new car come out, so I thought I'd add that to the list.
Exactly. Yeah, don't do that.
I didn't know it was there before. I just now. I thought I'd throw in the Ferrari after the fact.
Just to do it.
But don't. Your onboarding is not a good place to start asking for more perks either.
Yeah, that's not the right time. That's pre-offer. So so we had a great question. I've recently been promoted in April, but I didn't get a raise due to COVID. Should I ask for a raise in coming months? And how do I know it's a good time? Okay, as from an employer perspective, the way that you can read that it's a good time, when things start to plateau, when there's no panic anymore, that's when you ask, when things have plateaued. Now, Justin and Anna, how would you two go about negotiating that?
Anna, you can start.
Justin. You go.
Okay, I'll go. This is interesting because I would do the exact same thing, is wait until the management has realized that they're through this in with less panic. Because right now, if you look, managers are dying over cash flow. They're concerned about their future customer base. Their, product lines may not be, if it's a product company, may not be coming through as fast. Supply is slowed. Logistics have slowed. I would measure my manager and then go up the next manager and start talking about the company. Start getting involved with them. You'll get a sense, because most companies now have open door policy. You can just go have a conversation with them. How are you feeling about where we're going? What do you feel about this? They'll tell you. They'll be open with you. And when you get that sense that okay, we're okay, then you go in there and go, great, because here's what I've been doing to make sure we're okay.
And we're going to talk with our next guest, Michaela, about the psychology behind this and further answer your question. But for now, we've got to say bye to Anna. Bye, Anna. Thank you so much for coming on. All right. And everybody connect with Anna on LinkedIn, please. We will drop her link in the comments. Connect. She will be your career BFF. Trust me. She's really wonderful.
Every day. See you soon.
Bye.